Your mental concept of yourself defines your personal ceiling of success. When you expand your self image, you expand the possibilities, the levels of success, the relationships that you attract in your life. On the other hand, if your self image stays limited, then so does your life. So, in this video, I'm going to walk you through a process to expand the way that you see yourself so that you can expand the possibilities that you attract in your life and ultimately become the type of person that is worthy, capable, and deserving of the life that you dream to live. So, your self image is the conception that you have of yourself, the type of person that you conceive of yourself to be. Now, the beliefs that dictate our self image are often below the surface of our conscious awareness. And the reason for that is because a lot of our beliefs about ourselves were formed during a very impressionable part of our lives, specifically before the age of 7. So we are in a theta brainwave state before the age of 7, plus or minus 2 years. And in that brainwave state, we are more impressionable, which means that the stimulus we are exposed to has a much more dramatic impact and how we receive it. So theta brainwave state is also what hypnotists put their clients or patients under in order to get below the surface of the conscious mind and install a new belief. So if someone goes to a hypnotist and they are legit and they want to quit smoking, then the hypnotist puts them under a theta brainwave state to install a new belief that allows them to let go of smoking, for example. So when we are operating through the lens of these beliefs that we picked up through childhood, we are operating through a perception of ourselves that we are not ultimately aware of. And this is why behavior change doesn't work for the most part. At least it doesn't last if we don't shift our self image as well. So, when people go about looking to change their lives, I've noticed this in a lot of the fitness clients that I work with, coaching them to make changes, and they start at the level of the results they want to have. They want to lose X number of pounds, they want to gain X amount of muscle, they want to fix a particular area in their body that may be causing issues. And with that result in mind, they change their behavior and they are following through with the workouts for a while. They are making changes in their nutrition. And in the beginning, they may be able to stick with it. But until they reach the deepest level of change, which is identity level change, that habit does not last. And this is why we often see people that may be able to lose a significant amount of weight in the short term, but then they gain it all back in the long term. This is a common situation with dieters, and this is actually scientifically proven that the majority of dieters actually gain more weight back over the long term than they lost in the short term. And this is because they haven't intercepted their beliefs at the deepest level of change, which is identity level change. Until you become the type of person that doesn't miss a workout, until you become the type of person that is consistent with eating healthy, until you become the type of person that is lean, healthy, and strong, until you become the type of person that identifies with a particular result, until you do that, the behaviors will not stay consistent over the long term. Just gonna have a look at my notes over here. And the identity exists at the level of the subconscious mind. Now, there are a lot of different views on what the subconscious mind even is, but I like Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who says that the mind, which operates in the language of thought, is the conscious mind, and the mind that operates in the language of emotion and feelings, that is the subconscious mind. So, our subconscious mind is operating below the surface of our conscious awareness. For example, our heart is beating, we don't think about it. Our lungs are breathing, we don't think about it. Our digestion is breaking down and metabolizing the food that we eat. We don't necessarily think about it. It takes place beyond our conscious awareness. And we often hear that humans only use a couple percent of their overall brain power. And I suspect that this relates to conscious thought because so much is happening below the level of conscious awareness. And part of what I am sharing in this video comes down to the beliefs that we have about ourselves that are also stored in the subconscious mind. So the analogy that I would like to present to you right now is to think of the subconscious mind as the mechanism and your conscious mind as the operator. So your conscious mind operates in the language of thoughts, of ideas, of the interpretations that you hold, of the ideas that you consume. So all of the stimulus that your mind is feeding on, the videos you watch, the reels that you scroll on, the music that you listen to, the environment that you are in, the people that you interact with, how those people interact with you. Your conscious mind is coming up with interpretations of those experiences, and that is then being fed into the subconscious mind, which is the mechanism. So when we go back to the childhood beliefs that we formed about ourselves, maybe it was a parental figure who said something about you and said you'll never be worth anything, and that became your subconscious identity. And then the mechanism actually goes to work to validate what the conscious mind has picked up and interpreted. Okay, so we talk about AI, right? Artificial intelligence. We have ChatGPT, which is a mechanism. You are the operator, you feed it with the prompt. So similarly, we have AI in our experience as well, but this is not artificial intelligence, this is ancient intelligence, which is feeding on the interpretations that we pick up in, especially in childhood, but also in a day-to-day living, right? Because we want to expand our self-image, we want to expand what we are experiencing right now, and that starts with where you are. So you want to go to a certain place, you want to live a certain life that you don't have right now. We have to start where we are in the present moment, and that comes with intercepting the beliefs that may not be serving us in this moment to get to where we want to go, right? So the subconscious mind is the mechanism, the conscious mind is the operator, and it feeds the subconscious mind with the ideas, the thoughts, the interpretations that it's picking up on a day-to-day basis, right? So we talk about reprogramming the subconscious mind, of reprogramming the identity that we have. Now, you've probably heard that the nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and a vividly imagined experience. Now, this is a very important keyword over here, which is vividly. People talk about, I'm here right now and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna think about having a certain experience in my life. Let's say it's having a six pack. So if I imagine that I have a six pack versus actually having a six pack, like how, you might think that you can't really tell the difference, but it's about the vivid imagination. And this definitely requires a amount of life force to actually sit in your place of silence and vividly imagine it. And I'll give you another example, right? If you were to imagine a lemon and it's so juicy and it's dripping, just by squeezing a little bit, juice falls off. And then you imagine putting the lemon on top of it and then getting a few drips in your tongue, and then you experience the reaction of that. And that is a demonstration of the subconscious mind being unable to differentiate between an actual experience and an imagined experience. So it depends on your ability to imagine the type of person that you're becoming, to imagine the type of experiences that the person you're becoming will have. So Maxwell Maltz, he wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. He said it's about having a nostalgia for the future, or having a nostalgia for the future person that you're becoming. If you can vividly imagine the experiences that your future self is having and allow yourself to have the goosebumps as a result of that vividly imagined experience, that's when you know you're doing it right. But like I said, it requires an amount of life force to actually sit there and concentrate and focus on creating this vision in your head, because we live in a day and age where we are constantly bombarded with stimulus, and that has actually had a role to play on our imagination faculties going lower, just because we are watching all of these videos, we are watching these shows, we are listening to music, so our mind is constantly engaged. But the process of sitting in your place of silence and imagining with vivid detail what it would be like to be the version of yourself that's experiencing life, it requires a certain amount of life force. It requires a concentration, it requires effort, and it's not going to be easy, but that is the only path that you can begin to plant the seeds of this new version of yourself that you're becoming. Okay, Maxwell Maltz says that feelings are the soil in which thought germinates. Feelings are the soil in which the seeds of thought germinate. So we're planting the thoughts in our mind, and ultimately we want those thoughts to instigate feelings, which allow us to have this experience in our imagination, which then goes on to expand our self-image so that we can become the type of person that is worthy, capable, and deserving of the life that we want to live. Okay, now on this path, as you begin making these changes, as you begin implementing these habits, as you begin installing new behaviors, there will be negative feedback, right? You might not be able to achieve the result that you want on the first attempt. The point is to use that as feedback to adjust your behavior moving forward, right? Maybe you want to build a business and it doesn't work out the first time. That doesn't mean that business doesn't work. That just means that the business that you started right now may not work. So you use that as negative feedback to optimize your behavior, right? So you have the belief, which leads to the action, which leads to the result, which leads to the feedback. So you take the result as feedback and you use it to put it back into the belief, and then that is a feedback loop which you go through, right? Think about a heat-seeking missile, right? It's never on path to achieve its target, but it's constantly correcting itself. That negative feedback it's utilizing to correct its positioning, and then ultimately it hits the target. So it's about using that negative feedback that you're getting to optimize your behavior so that you can improve the direction and make sure that you are headed towards the target that you want. But the obstacles, the roadblocks, they are part of the process. Using them as feedback is what is in your hands to do. Okay, and ultimately you want to reinforce the self-image that you have with your habits. So it's a feedback loop between your identity and your habits. Your habits feed into your identity, and your identity feeds into your habits. It's a positive feedback loop if you allow it to be. When you become the type of person that's consistent with their workouts, when you become the type of person that prioritizes his health and fitness, when you become the type of person that focuses on creation rather than consumption, then your habits follow suit. And then when you exhibit those behaviors, they become votes for the identity that you are developing. And that is a positive feedback loop. Whereas if you see yourself as a person that's lazy, I see this a lot, man. I mean, I work with some people, they're like, yeah, I haven't achieved my goals because I'm lazy. I haven't achieved my goals because I don't have the energy. I haven't achieved my goals because I'm too busy. If you have that underlying belief and identity as a lazy person and you attempt to make changes, then you will always revert back to this identity that you have of yourself, your self-image, right? It's like a subconscious thermostat, and that's where self-sabotage comes in. So you have this subconscious thermostat. You identify as lazy, but you start taking actions. You're like, okay, I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to make these changes. You start seeing progress. You start making results. And then you reach a certain point where it's your identity is like, no, you're not worthy of having a six pack. You're not worthy of being fit. You're not worthy of having X amount of dollars in your bank account. That's where self-sabotage comes in. And then you fall down, back down. So it's like a subconscious thermostat. So until we elevate the thermostat, we can't actually elevate the results long term. So the process I'm sharing with you right now, the ability to imagine the future, to get connected with the version of yourself that is worthy and deserving and capable of the life you dream to live, connecting with that version is like elevating your thermostat so that you don't self-sabotage. Because if you make progress without elevating your identity, then as soon as you hit that identity, as soon as you hit the highest standard, then you will self-sabotage to get it below that standard again. Okay, so we want to reinforce the identity with the habits that we have, and we want to connect with the version of ourselves that is already worthy and deserving of that life. Okay, so ultimately, when you change your self-image, you change the possibilities for yourself. If you don't, you stay in that box. You stay as that limit holds you back from living the life that you want to live, right? So limits in life are really limits of self-image. And when you change your self-image, you change your life. So if this was helpful for you, subscribe below, leave a comment with your number one takeaway, and I'll see you in the next one.